Hello and welcome. It's Lauren. Today I'm taking you on a journey through 5 gorgeous Italian cities. Here's the story. This journey began like most do, on a plane, but this flight had some extraordinary views of the Alps as I flew from Dusseldorf, Germany to Bergamo, Italy, located just outside of Milan. The flight itself was under an hour and a half, so in no time at all, my feet were planted on Italian soil in the Stracciatella capital. The idea behind this trip was to tour 3 of the major Italian cities, Milan, Naples, and Rome, while also seeing parts of Lake Como and the Amalfi coast. The journey looked something like this, starting at the most northern leg of the trip, Lake Como, and working our way slowly down south. As I made my way from the airport to Lake Como to meet my best friend Vaishnavi, I reflected on what some may think about spending so little time in these vast Italian cities. Through my travels, I often explore by foot, and in my experience, I find that after a full day or two of walking 25,000 plus steps in a city, I've seen, smelled, and tasted a lot of it. Are there things I missed? Perhaps, but I've come to realize that it's not about checking every landmark off a list. It's about the feeling a place leaves you with, the small moments you stumble upon, and the memories that carry you forward. And with that in mind, I was ready to let this trip unfold on its own. So after a few bus rides and language barriers later, I arrived in Lecco. I was absolutely amazed by this station. Here's a map for reference. So here's Lecco on the bottom right, that beautiful station I just showed you. I hopped on another train from Lecco to Varenna, and from Varenna, I took a ferry to my final destination, Bellagio. The ferry in Varenna will take you to 3 other villages along the shoreline of Lake Como, Bellagio, Griante, and Menaggio, and you can hop off at whichever destination you please. I thoroughly enjoyed this way of travel. It's not often I get to travel by ferry, and to be on the waters of such an impressive lake with the Alps as a backdrop is a memory I never want to forget. This is a scene of the ferry approaching the village of Menaggio. Although I didn't visit Menaggio firsthand, I heard it was famous for its Cadenabbia golf club. So if you're into golfing, this would definitely be the village for you. Aside from that, it looked incredibly charming, with the scattered boats in the water and the colorful buildings tucked into the mountainside. The wonderful thing about traveling to Lake Como is that there are so many villages that are only a 15-minute ferry ride apart. So when you feel like you've explored a village through and through, there are others waiting for you. At last, I finally made it to Bellagio after a long day's worth of travel. Here, my friend Vaishnavi was waiting for me with a glass of wine in hand. Although the village of Como is the largest along the lake, hence how the lake got its name, Bellagio is known to be its most popular destination. Perched where the 2 branches of the lake meet, Bellagio has been dubbed the Pearl of the Lake for its romantic atmosphere and quintessential Lake Como vibes. Vi and I stayed in an Airbnb about a mile outside of the village hub. We decided to take the road less traveled when getting to the Airbnb, which made for a fun way to haul my luggage a mile, but ran into a really sweet boy along the way. Look how stinking cute the view from our Airbnb window was. Stone houses, vines growing up the side of the wall, old doors and windows, and a teeny view of the lake and the mountains in the distance. If this doesn't scream Italy, I don't know what does. And it just keeps getting better. This was our scenery while walking to dinner. So gorgeous. This is also us wondering how we can get onto this little farm. We decided on La Lanterna for dinner that night, and the sign was not lying. They really only had fresh pasta. The restaurant was tucked away on a side alley off the main strip of Bellagio. Maybe some would disagree, but I always find that the best restaurants and high tourist traffic places are the ones that are less accessible and well hidden. What was extremely unique about this spot was the hand-painted pots and pans and wine bottles that decorated the walls, as well as hand-drawn menus that clearly labeled allergies, provided simple dish descriptions in both English and Italian, and beautiful pictures of what you'd be eating. Another sign of a great restaurant like this one is a limited menu. I'm a firm believer that if a restaurant has less options, it means that what they do offer is of very high quality. The pesto I ate was everything I dreamt it would be. And, as the Italians love to do, they offered us complimentary shots of limoncello after we finished our meal. Another reason to rate this spot so highly. The next morning, my mind immediately wanted coffee and sunshine. I grabbed a quirky little mug, mixed up some instant coffee, and stepped outside to this flawless panoramic view of an April morning in Bellagio. Here's how the rest of the morning went. We decided to take the ferry to Varenna for an afternoon excursion. Although Bellagio is the more popular of the two villages, Varenna ultimately became my favorite stop. I love that you could sit so close to the water here. I also love that the waterfront restaurants were smaller scale, more quaint, and terrific quality food, as you can see from this delicious pizza and these icy cocktails. And come on, just look at the view. Wow. I just got the key for the bathroom, and this is the situation. No toilet seat. Great. We spent the next few hours exploring Varenna until taking the ferry back to Bellagio to hang out for the rest of the evening. I woke up the next morning feeling refreshed and content. Leaning out the window of our Airbnb, I let the crisp morning Italian air wash over me. There's no better way to start the day. A good night's rest was exactly what we needed to tackle the agenda for today. We planned to leave Lake Como, day trip Milan, and make it to Naples by nighttime. But first we had to say goodbye to the charming villages we called home for the past few days. I got to see my favorite Varenna one last time as we took the ferry there to hop on a train from Varenna station to Milan. I was honestly so happy to be leaving this day because the trains kept pouring in with mobs of tourists. These people were wild, walking on the tracks directly even though every station ever preaches to never do this exact thing. Talk about a scenic train ride. Cruising along the coast of Lake Como was the best goodbye a girl could ask for. After about an hour, we made it into Milan Central Station. I've been to some significant stations, such as King's Cross, but nothing I've seen before compared to this place. It was massive. The ceiling and windows looked more like a cathedral or museum rather than a train station. We started our Tour de Milan on the northeast side of town and planned to walk all the way across the city and back to make it in time for our evening train to Naples. But first, food. We ate at this extremely scenic rooftop restaurant located right next to the Duomo. I tried a saffron risotto dish, which honestly looked a lot like Velveeta mac and cheese. It wasn't my fave, but I absolutely had zero complaints, considering I was dining on a sunny rooftop in Milan with my best friend and a view like this. It is possible to tour the Milan Duomo rooftop, but Vi and I simply just didn't have enough time to squeeze that into our schedule. The pictures and views from there look incredible though, so that'd be something I'd do if I make it back to Milan one day. If you have a phobia of crowds or pigeons, I wouldn't recommend hanging out in front of Duomo. The place was crawling with both. Now this right here was the highlight of Milan for me. It's called Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. Please excuse me for butchering that gallery name to any Italian speakers listening. But basically, this gallery is a massive kind of indoor, kind of outdoor mall filled with designer brands like Saint Laurent, Prada, Gucci, Rolex, etc. But it's more famously known as Italy's oldest shopping mall. I also discovered here that it's a great place for taking a selfie with your toe. I highly recommend trying it out. Some slower paced and calm, yet still scenic and special moments of mine in Milan included bicyclists passing by on cobblestone paths, this man rowing away and working extremely hard to move a gondola, the warm spring breeze rustling the leaves in the trees, the teeny lock bridge that stood over the Navigli River, and pedestrians hurrying by to get to their next destination. Not featured is the gelato we ate. Here's one last view of the impressive Milan Central Station. Something interesting I discovered about this place is that during World War II, a hidden platform beneath Milan Central was used to deport Jewish prisoners to concentration camps. Today, it's a memorial site, a sobering reminder of the city's past amidst the station's striking beauty. It's also the largest railway station in Europe by volume, handling 300,000 plus passengers each day. Alright, I'll stop with the history lesson. Vi and I took a high-speed train that got us all the way to Naples within 3 hours, traveling about 250 kilometers per hour. I've gotta say, from the looks of the city at night, Naples was not living up to the dream I had imagined in my head. It was a little bit more rundown than expected. We slept like rocks that night after checking into our Airbnb. Our host was really great and provided us with a light complimentary breakfast at the cafe right outside the apartment. We each got a pastry, juice, and cappuccino for free, which was really generous. Now that our bellies were full and minds were caffeinated, it was time to get ready for the day and get a game plan together back at our Airbnb. After seeing the city of Naples in not the best light the night prior, we contemplated staying in the city for the day or day tripping somewhere else nearby. We ultimately came to the conclusion to leave Naples and take a ferry to the nearby city of Sorrento, a city just outside the Amalfi coast. Perched on a cliff overlooking the Bay of Naples, Sorrento has long been a beloved escape for artists, writers, and travelers seeking la dolce vita, Italian for the sweet life. Famous for its lemon groves and as the birthplace of the iconic Italian liqueur, limoncello, Sorrento offers a perfect mix of coastal beauty, history, and old charm. Its narrow streets, historic piazzas, and sweeping sea views leave anyone who visits wishing they had more time. In those narrow streets, you'll find a lot of crafty shops filled with unique pieces like the one seen here. This shop sold ceramic everything: wine stoppers, mugs, vases, serving dishes, you name it. And this shop took the ceramic serving dishes to another level. Look how insane these details are. After our little tourist hearts were fulfilled by store gazing and souvenir buying, we set off on a mission to find a beach. We didn't even use Google Maps at this point. We just followed the cliffs, the sound of the ocean, and a path that led us downhill. Excellent street art, if I may add. Finally, we came around a bend in the path, and boom, this was the view. I think it's fair to say we hit the jackpot. The only thing that could make this day better would be a refreshing cup of limoncello. Aha! Now everything is perfect. A champagne and limoncello mix, sand in my feet, and a view of the famous Mount Vesuvius in the distance. La dolce vita. I don't know what these guys are doing, but it looks dangerous and super fun. I sincerely want to try this one day. You know what I said earlier about visitors wishing they had more time here? Yeah, well, that was me in this moment. I genuinely did not want to leave. There was still so much to see. We hadn't even made it to the villages along the Amalfi coast, not to mention Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius also being so close by. We had such little time. So if I had to leave you with one piece of travel advice from this video, it's this. Give yourself at least a week to see the Amalfi Coast, nearby villages, and the ruins of Pompeii. Before we knew it, we were back in the bustling alleys of Naples, ready to treat ourselves to a world-famous Neapolitan pizza. Please take me seriously when I say this pizza was actually the best I can ever recall eating. Red and rich garlic flavor sauce, creamy, savory mozzarella, fresh basil, olives, and burrata to top it off. Not a crumb was left behind. Well, at least for me. The scooters couldn't care less about pedestrians, they just zoomed right on by. But, more importantly, here was my pistachio and Biscoff gelato, topped with a darling little sugar cone. So tasty. I completely crashed and slipped into a food coma after that. But the next morning, I was revived with some sunshine and much-needed coffee. We packed up our bags once again and hit up the train station. Now onto our last leg of the trip, Rome! Yay! I will say, though, before going to extremely well-known cities that I've spent my whole life romanticizing, I get this odd feeling that they're not going to live up to the hype. I think it's fair to say that that's happened to most of us. We get let down after something's been built up so much in our minds that reality doesn't quite match the version we imagined. So here Vi and I were, riding in an Uber through the streets of Rome, seeing the city for the first time. Meanwhile, I was praying this place would be everything I dreamt. Rome was off to a great start, after a very scenic drive from the east side, where the station was, to the heart of the city, where our hotel was. And walking into this clean and spacious hotel room we had booked for the next 2 days made it all the better. This is the River Tiber that runs straight through Rome. What made it special was that there were walking paths lining both sides, but all were set down beneath the main streets and sidewalks, almost hidden away, creating this quiet, tucked-away world amidst the rest of the city. It seemed that with every turn of my head, I was seeing another significant building or impressive ruin that had probably been around for like 1,000 years. I was genuinely in awe of the endless ancient architecture, the unexpected mix of deciduous and palm trees, and the subtle sprinkles of modern life, all blending together so effortlessly to create the most incredible city I've ever seen. The big event we had planned for the day was a tour we booked to see the inside of the Colosseum. On the way there, I couldn't help but notice several water fountains. I loved that the city provided free water for all, even sparkling, plus a charging station right next to the Colosseum. Genius. It's like they knew tourists were going to be draining their batteries while trying to capture the perfect shot of this historic landmark. Here are the scenes from our tour. My thoughts after the tour was over? That was a bit overrated. Is the Colosseum an absolute architectural feat full of history? Of course. But I wouldn't recommend doing a tour unless it's guided. The informational posters inside included a lot about the preservation of the Colosseum over time, but not much else. I honestly thought being on the outside was more rewarding than going in. That night, we dined in a cozy spot hidden away in an alley. We knew it was going to be great because there was a line of people waiting to be let in when we arrived at its opening hour. Can confirm it was superb. And at this price for everything we got, wow, just unheard of. Best street music performer I've ever met, all executed in the most dreamy, glowing, and romantic backdrop. Who wouldn't love this? Vi and I were so excited to take on Vatican City the next morning. The only downfall was that we should have planned tickets for the Sistine Chapel sooner. We tried a few days before coming, and they were completely sold out. Also, huge tip for those wanting to visit, the Vatican museums are closed to the public on Sundays except for the last Sunday of every month from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. All of that aside, it was still an incredible experience. We were there on Palm Sunday, which meant a giant crowd gathering to see Pope Francis. What we didn't know at the time is that this would be his last Palm Sunday due to his passing just a short week after this. We were super grateful to have this moment at the time, but realized how truly precious it was in the aftermath. After, we ventured to another iconic Rome spot, the Spanish Steps. The name suggests that there was some Spanish involvement in the construction, but it turns out that they were just designed by Italians and named this from the square at their base, the Spanish Square. Here are more impressively antique public drinking fountains. I just loved that the city provided access to free drinking water for all. As we wrapped up the last of our Italian adventures, we had one last stop on our minds, the Trevi Fountain. Talk about popular, the line here was massive. I guess this is what happens when such an iconic place is free to the public. Luckily, there were officials directing traffic and limiting the amount of time people could spend there, so the line moved rather quickly. If you're looking to get through the line in less time, I recommend going in late afternoon because morning and midday are peak visiting hours. What amazed me about the fountain was its size. Movies, pictures, and videos do not do this place justice. You simply need to experience its impressive magnitude and breathtaking details in real time. While walking our last steps on the cobblestone paths of Rome, I already knew I'd be paying this city another visit, hopefully several. After years of build-up, the hype didn't overshadow the experience. If anything, it made me realize that some places aren't just destinations you need to check off a list, but stories you return to, again and again. And Rome, with its timeless beauty and effortless charm, is one of those stories for me.